Hi, my name is Rick Brimacombe, and on behalf of the Minneapolis Club and my firm, Brimacombe and Associates, welcome to Club Entrepreneur, and welcome to 2017, and my 10th season running this group. For those of you who don't know me, I've been doing venture capital for over 20 years, and I assist business leaders in refining strategies, assembling resources, and securing funding. I've always enjoyed the start of a new year. It's a chance to wipe the slate clean, look forward with a fresh perspective and a set of goals, and to have a retrospective view on what has transpired over the last year. Given our panel today, New Year, New You, and a happier, healthier employee, I have 3 questions for you as a group. Please raise your hand if this applies. Do you have any personal New Year's resolutions? So the majority of people. How about, do any of those resolutions have a health component? Big chunk of them. Okay, and then do any of your respective companies have corporate wellness programs? Okay, a little less on that one, but certainly a lot of New Year's resolutions, and a lot of those resolutions having to do with health. And obviously this topic is relevant to us as an audience and where we're at this time of year. So thank you again for attending. Before we get to the panel, I want to thank our sponsors as they make this event possible. Schwegman Lumberg Woosner is an intellectual property law firm, and they've been sponsoring me since day one back in 2007. Olson Thielen CPAs is a full-service accounting firm, and Mike Brummelkamp is in the back, and they've been a sponsor since 2009. So thank you very much, Mike. I greatly appreciate that. Irish Titan is a web development and e-commerce company. They've been a sponsor since 2013, and Darren walked right in on cue. Darren Lynch over here. And if Darren hasn't shown you his green shoes, please ask to see his green shoes afterwards. Sunbelt Business Brokers is an M&A advisory firm, and they became a sponsor last year. And Executive Suites of Minnesota is my newest sponsor, also became a sponsor last year. And I have Greg Freeman right up in front, and where's Wayne? Wayne is back over here. So Wayne and Greg are the president and vice president of Executive Suites Minnesota, and they have 4 executive suite spaces: Minneapolis, Edina, St. Louis Park, and Woodbury. Thank you very much for being a sponsor and supporting this endeavor. And what was interesting about these guys, when I met them a handful of months ago, and they gave me a little tour of their space in the IDS tower, there were many people who come to Club Entrepreneur meetings that use their executive suites, and then a lot of other folks that I knew from the business community. So they're good folks, and have some great space in the IDS, and thank you for becoming a sponsor. For all the sponsors, whether it's Darren or Mike or Sunbelt and Schwegman, all the firms, I can speak from firsthand experience, having used them myself as well as having clients use them, that they're all very good on the capability side as well as the customer service side. So please support them to the extent you can. Yes, Mike?
I need to add one thing. Sometimes our judgment can be clouded and questioned. Rick Brimacombe will be speaking at Olson Thielen on January 18th, and if you don't get an invite, you can talk to me and I can get you on the registration list, but I'm sure it will be a spectacle, and I encourage you to attend.
All right, thank you, Mike. I did not pay him for that, but usually I facilitate these things and don't do the speaking myself. So he jumped ahead of me a little bit there, but I will fill in and say January 18th, EBITDA Partners, Olson Thielen at their Roseville office. I will be giving a 10-10-10 presentation called the Fertilizer Mix for Business, and basically covers the 25 to 30 years I've been doing investment research, investment banking, and venture capital. So hopefully you can attend that. As far as these events go, please RSVP online to the extent you can. It makes the life of the Minneapolis Club a lot better and easier. The website is clube.com. The little blue card on your table can point you towards the website. There's a business directory for the low price of $15 a month that you too can advertise to this audience. We have a LinkedIn group, about 2,300 people. This also points you towards the LinkedIn group that we have. Meetup is another avenue to stay in touch with our group. We have about 1,400 people in the meetup group. And then I also have an email list. And as Mike mentioned, they have an email list as well. And you can get on their EBITDA Partners group. Although most of the time EBITDA Partner stuff does sprinkle out towards my group here. On the tables there information about upcoming events. A couple of things I'll just call out. January 17th is a Grow or Go event, helping business owners decide, do I keep growing my company or is it time to sell? The EBITDA Partners, January 18th event, as we've mentioned. Club E St. Paul, Chum Struve is in the back. Chum Struve next event is January 18th as well. February 2nd, right back here, Building Your Business in Your 20s. I have a handful of young entrepreneurs with some fabulous business stories and a lot of fun to hear their perspectives. And then last but not least, March 3rd, Entrepreneurship. I have the CIO of Red Wing Shoes coming to talk to us on March 3rd. All right, Chris, where are you seated? Right over here to my right. Before we get to our panel, one last thing that we're going to do, I want to introduce you to Chris Kassir. Chris is President and CEO of Northwestern Health Sciences University, and given his position and unique perspectives on the wellness industry, I thought you'd like to hear a few quick comments from Chris. Chris, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. I'm a teacher in my heart, so I need to hear from the audience. So thank you so much for the opportunity to join you. And let me share a little bit with you about why I was excited to be a part of this conversation. So have any of you heard of Northwestern Health Sciences University before? Most of you know us as the Chiropractic College in Minnesota. We've been around for about 75 years. I joined Northwestern 3 years ago and came from a university in Chicago. I'm a bit entrepreneurial myself, close to this community there. I won Startup Weekend in Chicago 3 years ago when I was the dean of a business school there on a fluke. Don't know how it happened, but I did. But anyway, I came to Northwestern because I saw it not as a chiropractic college, acupuncture and Chinese medicine, nutrition, massage therapy, and our Bachelor of Science program, but rather as a health and wellness university. That it had a set of programs, professional care services, a network of seven clinics at the time, now 6, operating around the state, providing natural-based, integrated, alternative medicine to populations around the state. And at the same time, we're training the supply of clinicians for those institutions that are providing that kind of care. And aligned with the major trends that are happening, you know, today's consumer in higher education and today's consumer in healthcare are actually very much the same. And so without jumping around, let me explain this for a second. So 80% of the decisions in healthcare in families around this country are made by women. On average, she's a 35-year-old mom or family leader who makes the decisions and choices about which health plans, which care, what she wants for her family, right? And I see a lot of heads nodding because this is generally true. I know when I grew up, my mom made all the decisions for healthcare and all those things, and still generally true in families. So that mom, today, I have a name for her, and I call her Yoga Mom. And as soon as I say that, you instantly see her, right? She's everywhere. She's got a yoga mat under one arm and a kid under the other, or she's shopping at Whole Foods or thinking about good food on the table. Doesn't matter if she's black, white, red, Muslim, Christian, right? Yoga Mom is everywhere. And so is Yoga Dad and Yoga Grandpa and Yoga Grandma and Yoga Kids, right? And what she wants in her health plan, right, from her employer is to have access to health and wellness kinds of things, right? She wants all of that as part of what she's doing to keep her family healthy and well. She doesn't necessarily want drugs and surgery. She doesn't want to bring that into her house. She wants good, healthy food, and she wants to try these new, interesting things like acupuncture, Chinese medicine, all those things. So you got a picture of her, right? So before Northwestern, I was the president of Capella University, And you may know Capella as the big satellite ring building over here. You know, every state in the country, 55 countries around the world. And so as the president of Capella, we spend an extraordinary amount of money on marketing to understand who the customer is in higher education. And guess what? Guess who she is? She's Yoga Mom. She's the 30-year-old, 35, 40-year-old mom, often single head of household, trying to raise her family, make a difference in the world, do good, be a role model for her kids, right? Advance herself in the world. On top of that, while most of us think of education, higher education, as 18 to 25-year-olds packing up the car, going to a dorm, the reality is that 85% of the students in higher education are adults. They're yoga mom. That is the market. So you put those two interesting things together, and I land at Northwestern. And I say, oh my God, what an opportunity. Our student, our patient, we have healthcare programs that Yoga Mom wants, we have clinics and clinical care that Yoga Mom wants, and we're right in the sweet spot of this space. So we've rebranded and repositioned Northwestern as the only health and wellness university right now in the country that we're aware of. We're building and growing our brand and our relationships and our services and programs. We just launched a new on-site chiropractic program for mid-sized corporate employers, and if you saw the Star Tribune on Monday, there's an article in there about it. We contracted with a company called Friendship Homes about a year and a half ago to put a chiropractor on site in their manufacturing facility, to be there on a Tuesday or a Thursday to do early intervention with people on the line, get them into, exercise and seeing the doctor on site. In their first year, their data, their analysis shows for every dollar they've invested in this program, they've had an $8 return. They've now contracted with us to go into their site in Virginia. We have another one coming up in California, and we're about to launch this entrepreneurial model. So as a university in the health and wellness space, now a multi-trillion-dollar industry, my hope is that we can grab a piece of that and grow both demand for what we have to offer and also the supply of clinicians who can deliver in that market. So I'm excited to be here with all the entrepreneurs who are part of this club, those who are interested in this space. I could share a lot more with you, but with that, I hope that gives you a little bit of sense of the context and perhaps why Rick asked me to come. And so thank you for your time.
So $1 investment with an $8 return, that's a good segue into talking to our panel today. Mary Cruzy is president and CEO of Health Source Solutions. Chef Marshall O'Brien is founder of the Chef Marshall O'Brien Group. And Jessica Rosenberg is a yoga, meditation, and wellness consultant. And then I'm going to also add founder of the Adventures of Super Stretch. And I have worked with both Jess and Mary, and I've gotten to know Marshall because of this panel. So you all are in for a wonderful opportunity to hear from them on this topic. Concept of me having the three of these folks here is we have corporate wellness programs as kind of a horizontal way to look at the market. And then we have Marshall talking about food, kind of a vertical silo. And then we got Jess talking about exercise and that vertical silo, and then tying it all together. We got the whole package going on here with the corporate wellness community. I have some questions for them here. With that said, this is supposed to be an open dialogue. So if someone does have a question, please raise your hand and we'll weave you into the discussion. So with that, let's start. And why doesn't everybody spend a little time giving us your background, your bio, kind of your story? And we'll start down here with Mary.
Thank you, Rick. Mary Cruzy, and I have been in the wellness arenas for a very long time. I'm going on 30 years now. And when I entered this in, wellness and health promotion, corporate fitness, all those words were just beginning to come to light. There weren't degrees in this. Now there's master's degrees in health coaching. There's master's degrees in worksite health promotion. And back then it was somebody that knows something about fitness. So a lot of PE teachers entered this space. I'm an exercise physiologist by background. That's what my master's is in. And my first job was at a power plant in Utah where they had just built this brand new power plant. and had hired 800 people, and it was the first time they'd ever had health insurance. So as you can imagine, first-timers with health insurance that really didn't understand what it was went crazy, and they're like, holy cow, we can't afford this. So they brought in this new rookie, recent graduate, to start up a fitness center and health promotion program. I spent 3 years there at the front end of it, and then moved into Park Nicollet Medical Center, where I spent 18 years, and growing from being the semi-newbie of the group. There was 5 people in our department, and I was out at the Ford Motor Company helping their employees in their wellness initiatives. So I did everything from watching guys place hoods onto belts and then trying to tell them, you know what, when you lift 40 pounds an hour, 40 pounds, probably 50 times an hour, the last thing you need to do in the fitness center is more bench pressing, okay? Because you're really strong. So I moved from that mentality and working. I loved being on the line. Eventually growing up into Park Nicollet, where I was the department head, and we had about 35 staff working for us. In 2009, Park Nicollet divested their business-to-business group, so I just took that department and moved it into Health Source Solutions as an independent company, where we continue to offer worksite health promotion services. We do consulting, we do actually different types of programming services, and we really help companies maximize their investments in their employee health through whether it's their health plan, their EAP service, and really taking it to a deeper level. So our goal is to move companies past from what we call the flavor of the month type program and a checklist to something that has real goals, objectives, and meaning into a year-long initiative that eventually stretches into a sustainable program with sustainable change.
And tell everybody again, when you spun the business out and bought it yourself, when was that?
2009.
So
Sorry about
you
that.
all-
So
you
I've been on our
said
own
it,
for a
but-
while. We're
yeah,
going on 8 years now.
So not only are you an expert in the category here, but you've been running your own company doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much and welcome. Marshall?
I first want to just tell you briefly what we as a company believe in. For starters, we believe that adults and kids can lead happier, healthier lives through smart nutrition. People need to understand that nourishing is different than eating. And you might already know this, you might have heard about this, you might be living this, I might have just blown your mind right now. And everyone's in a different space with that, but I want you to understand that. Briefly, I am an author, yes, I'm a chef, a TV personality, regular on Fox, but we're more than just me. We have 4 chefs, 3 dietitians, we have researchers, we have writers, we have a videographer, publisher, editor, operations, and we are helping large and small organizations achieve either health benefits, wellness benefits, or performance advantages, health advantages or wellness advantages. There's a big problem out there, and Mary and Jess know this very well, and you're probably hearing more and more about this, but it's chronic inflammation, which is the silent killer. And a lot of people don't realize that there are foods that help you have a better quality of life and less body pain as you age and go along your career, or have sharper mental clarity, or minimize digestive issues. And then there are foods that make your life miserable. And unfortunately, in the U.S., and I kind of point this out in the U.S. because I'm married to someone who's from Turkey, so it's a very different relationship with food. But in the U.S., we have a very dysfunctional relationship with food. And unfortunately, most of the foods that we're eating are contributing to about 80% of the chronic illnesses that are out there, which stem from chronic inflammation. So this has become a public health crisis that people are, it's hard to grasp that because of how personal and emotional food is. So that's a big problem, and we're trying to help change that. The way our clients and the way we work, we provide nutrition consulting, we might do training, presentations, that kind of stuff, but we work with the city of Minneapolis, with fire, police, public works employees. We work with companies, whether it's Medtronic or US Bank, down to small companies. We also do a lot of training for school districts, for child care providers. We have a very broad reach as to what we do and how we do it, but at the end of the day, we're trying to help people lead happier, healthier lives through smart nutrition.
Great, Marshall. So are you going to tell us later what are the foods that are making us miserable?
We can talk about that if you want. but
Okay, all right. Well, how about one? Share right now. If I can scratch something off my list for 2017.
Sugar would be the number one thing that you can focus on. And,
Okay.
I think it's kind of funny that we laugh about that because it's, Harvard and Stanford, Princeton, National Institute of Health have done exhaustive studies on the addictive nature of it, and I'm really conscious about not trying to, solicit information about this or preach it. Our pediatrician, without asking, referenced how sugar is 60 times more addictive than cocaine.
Well,
I mean, and yet it's legal, it's socially accepted. And I'm not saying you should switch, but to Rick, to your comment, if you could get added sugar out of your life, you would see, even in 2 to 4 weeks, you would see changes to your health. Just
All
in
right.
2 to 4 weeks.
Give us something to noodle on. Jess?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be up here with Mary and with Marshall, and thanks, Rick, for bringing me here. I went to school I studied to become an industrial designer, and I was a bartender all through school, and now I pour oxygen cocktails for a living. So it's free, and it feels really good. When people learn to pay attention to their breath, they learn how to use mindful movement to self-regulate their body and to use the sensory integration tools of breath to find balance in their lives. And I get really nervous speaking in front of people, so you can tell.
You're
I
doing
have
great.
to do my notes.
You're
so,
doing great.
Yeah. And this pragmatic resiliency training not only calms the fluctuations of the mind, but it elevates your mood and sends positive hormones through your body. So I'm a catalyst in the wellness industry where I stand mostly in front of people who aren't in suits staring at me eating lunch.
With sugar in the lunch.
Yes, with sugar in the lunch. I have over 16 years of experience in the industry. I have a top app for kids called Adventures of Super Stretch, like this on my shirt. I write books and training manuals, and the University of Minnesota in 2014 did a study on my chair yoga program, which I like to incorporate into teaching the breathing and stretching, and when I go into offices to teach corporate wellness. I'm committed to helping individuals, no matter what age, lead an inspired life through mindful happy hours. And I believe that mindful movement and breathing are skill and action, so it has to be really habitual, and you have to really work towards practicing this, and then it becomes almost pragmatic resiliency training, and that becomes something that becomes it's just makes your life wonderful, and it has immeasurable benefits. So my goal is to educate, motivate, inspire change, and awaken people to their personal power so that they can find alignment and flourish in their personal and their work life.
And Super Stretch, give us just a quick thumbnail sketch of Super Stretch, how long you've been doing it, how many people have downloaded it, that kind of thing.
I've been teaching Super Stretch, or teaching kids and adults, for 16 years. The program was started in 2001. Super Stretch is apps, flashcards, books, and all kinds of different training manuals and programs to teach educators how to teach wellness to children.
And how many downloads on Super Stretch?
The app itself, through evangelical marketing and fortune of good luck being written up in Yoga Journal, I have had over 220,000 downloads on the app.
That's without a
So, and
dollar
it's
of
free.
marketing.
Yes, and I left sheets on your desk that tells you how to link up to that, and the Chair Yoga iBook that I have.
All right. And red balloons.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later.
All right, okay. That's where the red balloon came from. All right. So with that as background on our speakers and our panel, obviously a lot of years of experience, great perspectives on the category. I have some questions. Again, at any point in time, please raise your hand and we'll weave your questions into the conversation. But let's start with Mary. Mary, from your perspective, what are the latest trends in wellness? And that's both from an individual as well as from a corporate perspective.
Well, I would probably have to say, I'm from the corporate perspective, because I may leave the individual perspective to these two, because they have a great focus on that. So I would say some of the latest trends that we're seeing, and 30 years that I've been in this, I've kind of watched the pendulum swing back and forth. How many of your companies, there's a number of you that raise your hand that said your companies have corporate programs. How many of them are tied to some kind of a benefits incentive or a personal incentive with that? Okay, so a number of you are. That is a trend, certainly, is how do we pull this together, that it's not just the wellness program sitting here by itself, but how do we ingrain this as part of the culture of the organization? So I'd have to say one of the biggest trends is shifting to the culture. It's not just looking at the individuals and what can we do to lower weight, change blood pressure, but what can we do to provide a space for people to come to work. You spend a whole lot of time there where you feel supported through maybe your career. It could be some financial things. It's hard to get people to eat healthy and purchase whole healthy foods if they're struggling with their finances. It could be anything around social development and connectedness. We know that especially the generation with their hands, that they are very connected through their phones, and we need to continue to build support networks to connect people with this. If you want a good book on looking at corporate wellness, Tom Rath has the 5 Pillars of Wellbeing, which is a great resource for looking at wellness outside of the physical paradigm. So it's really looking at everything. So I'd say that's one of the biggest trends. And then we get into things like online platforms, health platforms where you can connect. Of course, wearable devices are a real big thing right now. What we do know is one of the unfortunate trends is that the workforce that's entering now, it is the first generation where they are actually entering the workforce with chronic conditions. So it's not anymore that we're looking at the 45 to 50-year-olds. We are actually starting to dip way down in the pocket of the pool, and we're looking at entry-level positions coming into our workforces with chronic conditions.
That's unfortunate. Marshall, Jess, from your perspectives, any latest trends that you'd like to add to the conversation?
We are actually working with a handful of companies that are forward-thinking in the sense that they're implementing smart nutrition strategies, to have their customer service people be less stressed so that they can give better service and not get as ticked off from problematic customers, that kind of thing. They're using nutrition strategies so that their managers can have better mental clarity when they're making critical decisions, whether their salespeople out in the field are making smarter food choices so they don't make poor choices, thus messing up negotiations. I'd like to see more companies getting involved with that because it's huge, and that would be a trend that we're seeing. So incorporating the philosophy, but then also auditing where does food touch your workspace. So whether it's office meetings, vending machines, the cafeterias, and actually having a statement or recognizing the role it plays and why you're doing it. If you tell people if you make a plan, you tell people you have a plan, they're going to cut you slack, and oftentimes they'll support you in trying to make that plan successful.
98% of what you do every day is involuntary. And James Joyce has a great quote saying that a lot of people live a short distance from their body. So just teaching people how to breathe and really be present and pay attention to that has a profound effect on people. The CDC recently did a study, and 40% of the people surveyed viewed the job as stressful. And workplace stress affects not only the bottom line, but it has so many health implications. So if people are coming in and they're already inflamed and sick and eating the wrong things and stressed out, and we look at over 7 screens a day, and our attention span is getting shorter, all of a sudden you have cardiovascular disease and greater risk of injuries, mood and sleep disturbances. So when you teach someone mindful movement and self-regulating skills like breath work, it changes the whole dynamic in the office place.
Great, thank you. How do your respective businesses work with and play a role in establishing programs for those folks who either don't have a program or maybe they don't have as wide-reaching of a program as they might? How do your respective businesses work with companies and individuals to create wellness programs?
We have a strong philosophy that we want to make sure that a program meets the needs, unique needs and wants of the employees. So you can come in with these great grandiose ideas of what you think they should have, but if that, in most people's journey isn't going to align with what you think they need right now. So what we really try to do is work with a company. We listen, we ask lots of questions, we get a feel for the culture and the environment at that organization, and then we sit down and we work with you to set up some programming that's going to meet the needs of each of those individuals. And I always say you have to kind of go the bell curve. You're going to have maybe a fitness program or a deep breathing or a nutrition initiative that we can reach the middle of that bell curve. But the people over here that aren't ready to hear it or don't want to hear it, what are you doing to help them move along? And then you have the people over here that, you know, no matter what you tell them, they're going to do it, right? So we certainly work with the bell curve, but we also want to think about programming and options to help people move through that journey, because somebody might be really into nutrition right now. Somebody might need to quit smoking, but they're not ready to quit smoking because they have a lot of stress in their life. They haven't probably inflammation, maybe they hurt, maybe there's some other things going on in their life. So you need to make sure that when that time comes that they're ready for that, or there's other areas they may need assistance with, that you're there to provide that for them. So it's a very custom approach and not trying to do this canned one-time thing where, example would be, many of you, if you have your health insurance, have online portal access to a wellness program, right? You can do that, but how do we get people to go in there and do that? They have to be ready and wanting. So that's really a role that we play strongly, is how do we engage people to taking that first step?
Great, thank you. Jess, Marshall?
Well, just to kind of piggyback off what Mary said, you know, engaging people is obviously the missing link. And I put there's a sheet I put out on your spot. And real quick, this is a universal kind of flow of sustainable change. And the biggest pain point that organizations have, and I mean, it's just with people, is, all right, I sat through a really cool presentation, or I saw a great movie, or I read this fantastic book, or whatever it is, and I'm really motivated now. Like, my belief has been challenged and it's been changed, and I want to get started. And the pain is getting them started. You have a fabulous lunch and learn or whatever, but how do we get them? Because then you have all these initiatives lined up and things like that. If you don't get them a plan, and you know, we have a workbook that we put out, and this is like 2 pages of here's things you can start doing tomorrow. And they're not crazy things like going from Coca-Cola to kale shakes in a day. I mean, it's like, it's just like weaning off certain things, maybe getting an extra 20 minutes of sleep. I mean, giving people a concrete plan, an immediate action that they can visualize getting benefits in 2 to 4 weeks, because now they're actually going to be inspired. And with what we've been learning and what we've been hearing, and Mary will attest to this, is fitness is pretty easy because it's just getting the motivated, the inertia to get moving, and you start feeling better within a couple of days, and you're getting more oxygen, more energy. And then you got smoking. Smoking is a different strategy. Well, a lot of times organizations don't realize, because of the addictive nature of processed foods, you actually have to have a smoking cessation strategy for nutrition. So you have to get them like changing the beliefs and then giving them, here's the plan to get started. It's not going to make you sick. You're not going to have to do, wind sprints up and down the stairs, but here's some things to get started. And they start to feel something. And then you got all these initiatives set up, whether it's more lunch and learns, more educational, topical programming, or whatever the case may be. But it's like Mary said, it's changing. It's capturing that moment when they are ready to participate. And everybody can relate to being stressed out or feeling, waking up and your feet hurt, or you're getting headaches more than you normally should because maybe you're just dehydrated, or that you're getting super low on energy by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And you realize you're only getting 6 hours of sleep and you're eating a highly processed, refined breakfast. I mean, those little things that you can start changing that they don't cost a lot of money. They cost the same thing, if nothing, but it's capturing that opportunity when their belief has been changed and they're ready to get started.
Great.
Awesome.
Jess?
I left something on your table, not only some balloons, which you can pass out right now because we're going to experience blowing up a balloon, but simple tips and powerful daily habits to positively impact your mindful, happier hours at work. And they're just some tips and tools because I will not be able to say everything that I want to say right in this timeline. But I go into organizations, schools, studios, fitness facilities, and I try to really teach them how to breathe. So what's the first thing you do when you're really excited or inspired by something? Right, you go, and you get, what happens when you get totally flipped out and you're stressed out and this project is due, or you're like, have to be somewhere and you're really late, or you want to flip off the person in the next car?
Same thing.
You kind of look like those cartoon characters, right, with the smoke coming out of the ears and you hold your breath. So literally what I teach people how to do is to not get stressed out, not forget to breathe, and how to stop the fight or flight response where you're in your animal brain, your reptilian brain, because when you're in that space, you're like being amped on 10 cups of coffee. And it creates respiratory alkalosis, which is what you're talking about. So it literally makes you acidic. And then it turns into your muscles twitching, nausea, irritability, lightheadedness, all kinds of great things, right? So what you're really trying to do is calm your body by breathing so that your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and you send the happy hormone serotonin, which is who likes chocolate? Who likes drinking wine, right? So all of that stuff is a way that we've learned to, just like sugar, it's a way that we have learned to kind of self-medicate. But breathing does the same thing. And as I said, as a bartender, breathing's way cheaper than some alcohol. And it teaches you how to, when you breathe, you also create less belly fat. So how many of you, your New Year's resolution was to get rid of the little muffin top or the little beer belly, right? If you breathe properly, I'm not going to stand up and show you my tummy, but if you breathe, I'm inherently lazy, and breathing is the best way to get quote-unquote six-pack abs. You don't have to do anything because you're creating balance from the inside out. And when you regulate this flow of oxygen, it's pretty amazing. So one of my cheap tricks, right, is to use a balloon. And so I gave you all a balloon. And all I want you to do is kind of practice something called a 3-part breath, where you're really focusing on breathing from belly, lungs, and ribs, and then ribs, lungs, and belly. And so you're going to practice and see if we can all blow up balloons, because how many times do you go to a business meeting and try and like blow up a balloon, right?
Well, I've been doing this for 10 years and it hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
So this is a first, okay? We're going to try. We're with you.
So all we're going to do is take a 360-degree expansion of the torso. So as you inhale, when you breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth, you release tons of toxins. So you're literally purifying your body from the inside out. So you all have a balloon, and you're going to just take an inhale deeply through the nose, as much air as you can, and then hold on to your balloon and exhale. So if it was hard for you to blow out the balloon, that means that you need to practice creating more breath practice. You have to use more breath in your life.
And the exhale was top down, whereas the inhale was bottom up.
Yep. So you're inhaling and then you're exhaling. Yeah, and then you can throw them around the room. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
That's what I wanted to do, right? That's good.
So going down these last couple of comments about how you play a role in these wellness programs, a lot of it kind of went back to the start and then motivation. So let's just talk a little bit about motivating employees to get on board. So how do you do that? What are some tricks? What do you all do to get people to get on board with the program through some sort of motivation?
You go first.
Oh, no, go ahead.
We've been doing wellness lunch and learns for, 7-8 years, and started out at Hennepin County. And you can probably relate to this if you have any kind of lunch and learn activities at your business, the Faithful 15, right? You know what I'm talking about? It's that bell curve that Mary said at the very end. No matter what, they're showing up. And Hennepin County is a great example. We've been doing programming for them for, like I said, 7, 8 years. And about 3 years ago, we decided to change our topics to focus on benefits, specifically like foods to reduce stress, foods to boost your immune system, foods to reduce body pain, foods for better mental clarity. And what we found was, we still did fun, entertaining cooking demonstration and had the charismatic chef guy talking about how you can make your life better with this. We talked about it through the lens, however, of if you incorporate these foods into your life and you avoid these foods, you can achieve, reducing stress with the food in 2 to 4 weeks. And we went from the faithful 15 barely being able to fill up a room, and frankly, that's a very, very expensive lunch and learn, to having over 70 people in the room with waiting lists. And as for Hennepin County, that's a good problem to have because now they're getting better bang for their buck. And so we said, we're kind of onto something here, and it got reinforced when we worked with the City of Minneapolis Fire Department. Now, imagine the biggest group of alpha males on the planet, yet you are in front of, and you're this 15-year-old looking skinny chef guy, and you're going to tell them how to be healthy. That is going to go over like a lead balloon. And we took the approach of, we're not your mother. We're not here to tell you how to live your life. But if you want to be safer on the job and you want to have less body pain because the demands of your job don't stay, they don't change, but you obviously you age. So if you want to feel better and not get injured, that kind of thing, we connected something that was important to them. Now, sure, there are still going to be a group of people that just don't care. And, they don't care. But when you attach a selfish benefit that they're like, yeah, I do want to wake up without having headaches or being energized, now they're going, okay, maybe I can do that. And then you give them a tool, like we have this workbook that we do. We give it for individuals. We give it for companies that they use for their employees. Then you have the programming in place. So for us, it's capturing when you've changed the belief and now they're ready to do action and giving them something that they can have a selfish benefit in just a couple weeks.
Mary, Jess?
Mindfulness to me is a revolution. It's a new way of being, and a company and families are only as healthy as they create that for their employees and their family members and all of that good stuff. So I like to set intentions. One thing on the sheet that I handed out here is to say, have a purposeful pause, to take a deep breath. Another thing that's really simple is to take a sip of water. If you take a sip of water, over 80% of your body is water, and it helps you to stay healthier and hydrates you and does some amazing things to flush out toxins and get you back into alignment. One of my favorite quotes is from Thomas Edison, and it kind of talks to everything that we're talking about today and what our keynote talked about. The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame and diet and the cause of prevention and disease.
Great, thank you. Mary?
Dittoing both of them, it is about finding what's going to motivate an individual to change. I call that intrinsic behavior versus extrinsic. Many in the corporate world, we have extrinsic rewards that we give employees. If you do this, this, and this, we'll take off $15 off your monthly premium, or you'll get a t-shirt or tennis shoes. By the way, it's amazing what people will do for a t-shirt, okay? So it is there, and they will do it. I think the biggest challenge, though, is how do we get that to go from extrinsic to intrinsic? This feels good. I want to keep doing it. That they learn that this is the way that it should be the normal feel for them. That if they continue to do this action, this behavior, the way they eat, move, whatever, they're going to feel better. And that is probably the million-dollar question. If we had an answer for that, we'd be off sitting on a Hawaiian island somewhere because we'd be very wealthy. So it's human behavior, and it's very tricky. And in my perspective, you have to have lots of ways to reach employees because people are going to be motivated by different things. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And the key to that nugget is figuring out, just as Marshall did, what is it that motivated these people to come? And you may need a whole different scenario for a different group of people or individuals.
Great, thank you. So are these wellness programs connected to organizational and human capital goals by attracting and retaining quality skilled people, or is it more just kind of quote unquote a benefit thing?
I would say that it is definitely the trend, as we talked about, is moving to the human capital. This is about the whole employee. As the job markets get tighter, there is a much higher demand for employers to look for employees that not only have the skills and the knowledge that they need, but that they're going to retain, that they can keep them there for more than a year or two, because it's very expensive to replace employees. So the exciting part for me is that I am hearing more and more companies, instead of me having to go in presenting a business case, which quite honestly I haven't done for probably 5 or 8 years, is companies are bringing this in because it's the right thing to do. It's not, oh, what can we do? We're scrambling, we got to pay for this. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do, which is really an exciting place to be. And they're moving away from ROI, return on investment, to what's called VOI, value on investment, realizing that not always can numbers prove things. You're not always going to get an 8-to-1 return on your investment, because there's such a big ripple effect about what programming can do. So what is the value you're bringing to employees? And I think that's a huge shift in our industry.
Great, thank you. Jess, Marshall?
I think Mary said it
really well.
beautifully. Yeah.
There's so many positive outcomes to mindfulness practices, to wellness practices, to eating well. Not only are you cultivating community, but you're creating a competitive edge, you're boosting your employees' IQ, you're stimulating creativity, and the benefit is that you're getting more productive, but you're really creating a place where people want to come to and to work, and because you're cultivating and nurturing positivity.
Time for a question from the audience. I haven't been seeing any hands, so I've just been rolling with it. Got one over here, Peter.
I recently read a Harvard Business Review case study about return on investment for corporate wellness programs, and essentially this is an article from maybe 2014 or 2012, so it may be obsolete by now. But they essentially came to the observation that it depends on the management of the company more than it does on your programming. How do you deal with neutral management, or maybe even negative-minded management toward these ideas?
It's tough. It's really tough. And I can tell you the programs that have success, the CEO and senior C-suite have bought off on the program. They believe in it. They believe the value of it. And, I always have said an action's worth 1,000 words. When people see them doing it and see them participating in things, the communication and the marketing strategies become so much easier, because they're walking the talk. So how do you get somebody, to believe in that? That's tough, and again, you go back to, a CFO typically wants financials. They want to see, this is going to cost me this, what am I going to get back for it? And I'll be honest, there's a lot of animosity in our field right now, because some groups are coming out saying, oh, this doesn't work. It's, forget that 3-on-1. If you saw the big article on Pepsi and PepsiCo's program. The tough part about wellness with the ROI is, how do you prove that you didn't get a heart attack? How do you prove that by getting somebody in for their cancer screening early and catching it, at a pre-cancer stage, you didn't end up with cancer? How do you prove some of these really tough things? The other thing is what do you include into an ROI as the wellness dollars? The free platform I get through my health plan, does that count or doesn't it count? So there's still just really tough things in our area, but there is also a whole lot of data that shows that companies without wellness programs, people keep getting sicker. If you do nothing, nothing will change. So that's kind of the basis that we use, is you got to do something, because if you do nothing, it's not going to get better.
Marshall or Jess?
In the next 2 to 3 years, let me I'm going to kind of I'm going to answer your question in a different way. About 3 years ago, food industry general counsels were instructed to start preparing for consumer advocate complaints, consumer complaints about why is foods making me sick. And so that's happening now, and we're hearing it here and there. It's in the next, I'd say 3 to 5 years, it's going to become more of a normal conversation. and companies are going to be forced to have to embrace that, those that haven't. Obviously, they are embracing, a lot are, but it's a competitive advantage they can have when they are showing that they care about their employees and see the bigger picture. So it's only going to continue from a nutrition standpoint, getting more and more important for discussion.
Jess, you want to add anything?
I agree with everybody. It's a lifestyle, so it has to start from the top.
So why don't we have, well, actually, Alex, I think, had one over here.
Oh, I'm sure they can hear me from here. Chef, following up on Rick's question from early on, can you name a couple of foods that work against inflammation?
That are anti-inflammatory?
Anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, like omega-3 fatty acids. The best source is going to be through fish. There are plant-based omega-3s. Vibrantly colored vegetables. I mean, ultimately, you really want to focus on omega-3s and plant-based, so potassium-rich foods, magnesium-rich foods, so it's like your spinach, your kales, your romaine lettuces, your peppers, your low-sugar fruits, so berries, because they're high in antioxidants. I mean, I'm giving you obviously a big broad, scratching the surface, but there's, if you could get packaged foods and added sugar out of your life, just that alone would make a profound difference on your body pain level. You might have like accelerated levels of inflammation in your body, and that's like really vague. Think of it this way: acute inflammation is a scratch, it's a cut, it's a bee sting. Whereas chronic inflammation, you may not even know you have it until you get diagnosed. And like Mary was saying, incoming workforce in their late 20s, early 30s are getting diagnosed with these chronic illnesses that are related to chronic inflammation, which starts at preteen years because of not getting enough sleep and not eating the right foods. So I kind of went on a little tangent, but I gave you a little bit of a flavor there.
Foods that are acidic cause a lot of inflammation.
And Jess, what would those be?
High sugar foods.
Fast food. Everything that's in the frozen food section. Anything that has preservatives in it.
80%, unfortunately, 80% of a grocery store, the foods that are being sold in the grocery store, 80% you probably want to avoid. So, they say shop the perimeter, but you really want to shop the perishable part of the perimeter. And those are going to be the items that are going to be intuitively anti-inflammatory. And then there's specifics, herbs and spices. Your turmeric, your gingers, your garlics, things like that. That's herbs and spices not only make food taste great, but they have a lot of digestive properties, digestive aid properties, anti-inflammatory properties. So we actually talk a lot about that on our website and in our books and stuff. So welcome.
One last one?
Yeah, so I normally don't have questions, but this one's near and dear to my heart, alcohol. So for the second year in a row, I'm doing dry January. I don't start till after Iowa's bowl game, so I didn't start till Tuesday. And I still finish January 31st, so the equivalent of dry February. How much more alcohol will I be able to drink the rest of the year if I don't drink it all again? Or if you don't want to answer that question, really what do we have to keep in mind with alcohol? Setting aside alcoholism, like what are the, not alcohol, but what are the health benefits or disadvantages of alcohol?
I'm not a math major, so I can't help you out with how many can you have. Moderation is where I come into the picture.
Generally, a glass, and that's like an 8-ounce fluid ounces, and I don't think anyone drinks just 8 fluid ounces, but the reality is an 8-ounce fluid ounce for women and two 8 ounces for men. And if you can go more simple, if you do your added, cocktails and stuff like that, you get the alcoholic benefits, but you get way too much added sugar. Sugar is going to be the next villain, and it's not just because we need to have a food villain. It's for just cause. So if anything, minimize the cocktails and just drink sparingly. Part of the problem is if you drink too much, it can mess up your neuroreceptors, and your mental cognition obviously can get impaired over time, and you build up a tolerance. Not a good thing, as you were saying.
And remember, it's a lot of empty calories.
So don't drink the drinks with the foo-foo parasols.
He doesn't, I know that.
Yeah, it's good beer,
But
right?
one of the challenges too with alcohol is that a lot of people are getting gluten intolerance. So beer is not as great as everybody thinks it is. Yeah.
Although I'm gluten sensitive, and I can help people on the which beers can you drink and not. Anyway, all right, so I try to quit at 1. We've run a little bit long just because we got into the questions a little bit late. We have the room as long as anyone wants to stay. I'm sure our panelists would love to stay and talk to you further. With that said, why don't we go 30 seconds each with just a few closing thoughts, and we'll wrap it up with that.
Well, New Year's resolutions are awesome. They're that Kickstarter to get us going. However, the ideal is to get to the point where you are doing it all year round and there really isn't a resolution needed. And it's easier said than done.
Thank you.
To go along with what Mary said, if you're trying to make changes into your life for whatever the reason is, and we're all selfish, so we all have different things. For me, I want to have better mental clarity by sleeping more, because that's my biggest struggle with a 5 and 2-year-old. Having said that, I'm trying to be realistic, so put realistic steps in place. I try to get 10 to 15 minutes extra every night. I try to turn off my computer or my laptop, my iPad, iPhone, turn it off an hour before I go to bed. Put practical, realistic steps in place. Have someone that supports and believes what you're doing, and you can hold each other accountable. I mean, just baby steps is key if you're going to make sustainable changes, whether it's for you or for your organization. I mean, with wellness programs, Mary can speak to that, is you take it in small, digestible pieces. You can't try to, go for the gold right away. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you. Jess?
Start breathing deeper. 2/3 of your lungs are at the back of your body near your kidneys, and when you're stressed out and you're only breathing the top 30% of your body, you are sending cortisol through your system. So with you really take a deep cathartic breath, inhaling belly, lungs, and ribs, and exhaling ribs, lungs, and belly, that's when the magic starts to happen. And our bodies are amazing human machines, and they're powered by the breath. And every inhale and every exhale keeps the pistons of your machine going. So, cheers.